That was quick, it came straight back, did you notice? I thought we could have a couple of stories now for after your tea, before you go to bed, okay? So the first one we're going to have is Sleepy Sam. Look at him, he's fallen asleep already, isn't he? Shall we see what he's up to? Sam was a good shepherd, and the farmer was very pleased with him. He looked after his sheep carefully, and at the end of the day, he would count them all. 1 ba, 2 ba, 3 ba, 4 ba, 5 ba, 6 ba. What's happened? But counting sheep made Sam so sleepy that he just couldn't stay awake to remember to shut the gate. So the sheep wandered out. And look, he's sleeping. One sheep got into Mrs. Battersby's garden at number 23 and began eating the grass on her lawn. The others followed. One began nibbling at the clothes on Mrs. Battersby's washing line, a cardigan, a shirt and some underwear. And they're eating Mrs. Battersby's knickers. Isn't that naughty? And the others copied. Look what they're doing. Naughty sheep. Mrs. Battersby wasn't very happy. She was feeling angry. We've just learned about that, haven't we? She shooed away the sheep and she shouted at the farmer. The farmer spoke to Sam. The farmer was feeling disappointed, wasn't he? Because he wanted Sam to do a better job, so the farmer was feeling disappointed. You're a good shepherd, Sam, but you must remember to shut the gate. The next morning, Sam got ready to count the sheep again. 1 ba, 2 ba, 3 ba, 4 ba, 5 ba, 6 ba. What's happened? He fell asleep again. Oh no. So the sheep wandered out again. One sheep strayed into Mr. Eccleston's garden at number 25. It went right through his vegetable patch. The others followed. One trampled all over his runner beans and his cabbages and his sweet peas and his very large marrow, which he hoped would win a prize, and the others copied. Mr. Eccleston was even more cross than Mrs. Battersby. He felt very angry. You know, when we said it feels like a big volcano in your tummy that's about to explode. Look at Mr. Eccleston's face. That's an angry face. He shooed away the sheep and shouted at the farmer. The farmer spoke to Sam. How do we think the farmer was feeling? Disappointed, that's right. He was upset, he was angry, and he was a little bit sad because Sam had done it again and he'd give him another chance, hadn't he? You're a good shepherd, Sam, but you must remember to shut the gate. The following day, Sam got ready to count the sheep as they came into the field. 1, he counted, ba, 2, ba, 3, ba, 4, ba, 5, ba, 6, ba. What happened? He's done it again! Oh no! And so the sheep wandered out. Oh no! One clambered over to the hedge into Miss Flint's garden at number 27. The others followed. One drank from the bird bath, kicked Miss Flint's gnomes and messed about in her pond. The others copied. Oh! Miss Flint was extremely angry. She shooed away the sheep and shouted at the farmer. Look at her poor gnome's hair that's broke. The farmer spoke to Sam. I think the farmer was feeling disappointed. How is he feeling now if you look at his face? How does he look? Does he look the same as Miss Flint? He looks angry now, doesn't he? He's lost his patience. He said to Sam, "You're not a good shepherd after all, Sam. You'll have to go." I think Sam's feeling a bit sad and disappointed himself now, isn't he? The next day, Sam got a new job. He went to work in the zoo. He worked hard all day long. He fed the tigers. What a scary job. He bathed the hippos. Oh, that looks like a fun job, doesn't it? That was a soggy job. He cleaned out the elephant house. Pooh, that was a smelly job. Oh no. Can anybody see what's going to happen next? That evening, Sam stood by the lion cage, ready to count the lions before they went inside to sleep. 1, he counted. Rah. 2. Rah. 3. Rah. 4. Rah. Stretch. 5. 6. Snore. Oh yes, counting lions made Sam so sleepy that he just couldn't stay awake to close the cage door, and the lions bounded out. Oh dear! What do you think happened at the end of that story with the lions? They wouldn't chew Mrs. Battersby's knickers or jump into Miss Flint's bird bath, would they? No, I think the lions had a really good dinner, don't you? Yes, so do I. Okay, now then, let's read about Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear babysits. "It's no use," said Mrs. Bear. "I can't seem to settle the baby." Said Mr. Bear. "I can't take her with me to babysit for the grizzle bears," said Mrs. Bear. "She'd keep them all awake." Said Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear's not listening, is he? What's he doing? He's reading his paper, isn't he? "So you'll have to babysit," said Mrs. Bear. Said Mr. Bear. "What?" I think he's listening now. Mr. Bear walked through the woods to the grizzle bear's house and knocked on the door. Before he could say, "I've come to babysit," a baby bear was thrust into his arms. "We're late, so terribly late," said Mr. and Mrs. Grizzle Bear as they bolted out of the door. Mr. Bear felt his arms becoming sticky. "You'll have to give the baby a bath," said a small bear, appearing at the end of the hall. Mr. Bear didn't know how to bath a baby. His wife had always taken care of that kind of thing. "You're not very good at that," said Fred as Mr. Bear drenched himself in bath water. "That's not the right way to do it," said Ted, as Mr. Bear tried to dry himself and the baby with the bath mat. "I don't think you're a proper babysitter," said Fuzz, as the baby started to cry. Mr. Bear didn't know how to stop babies from crying. He patted the baby's head and he rocked the baby up and down. "You're not very good at that," said Fred, so Mr. Bear tried to sing a lullaby. "Twinkle, twinkle, Little slug, leaving slime trails on the rug. That's not the right song. It's not, is it, children? Said Ted. I really don't think you're a proper babysitter, said Fuzz. The baby kept on crying. Perhaps the baby's hungry, said Mr. Bear, and he headed towards the kitchen. Fred, Ted and Fuzz watched Mr. Bear prepare a meal of raw fish. The baby wouldn't eat it. You're not very good at that, said Fred. Then Mr. Bear tried some acorn mush and the baby, he spat it out. Blech! Don't you know that babies only eat honey? I'm sure you're not a proper babysitter, said Fuzz. So Mr. Bear gave the baby some honey. I think he liked that. The baby's eyes began to close. It really is very peaceful, sighed Mr. Bear, as he settled down into a comfortable chair. I wonder what the others are doing. Bonga bonga twang crash! The baby woke up and began to cry again. Oh dear. We were playing hide and seek, said Fred. But Fuzz hid in the clock, said Ted. And it wobbled too far, said Fuzz. What have they done, children? What's happened to the clock? It's broken, hasn't it? That's it! Shouted Mr. Bear. You're quite good at shouting, said Fred. Upstairs, bed, now, roared Mr. Bear. That's the right way to do it, said Ted. And not a peep out of any of you, or there will be trouble, boomed Mr. Bear. You are a proper babysitter after all, said Fuzz. And they ran off and dived into bed. Mr. Bear and the baby went back to the bathroom. Mr. Bear washed and brushed the baby brilliantly. Mr. Bear and the baby went into the kitchen. They cleaned up the mess, made himself a cup of tea, loaded a plate with biscuits and warmed a little honey, all the while humming a soothing lullaby to keep the baby happy. Then Mr. Bear and the baby sank into the comfy chair in front of the fire, and very soon all was quiet. Mr. Bear was just falling asleep when the Grizzly Bears came home. Don't know how you got that baby to sleep, said Mrs. Grizzly Bear. I always let my husband take care of that kind of thing. Mr. Bear smiled a secret smile to himself. Mr. Bear walked home by moonlight, past burrows and nests, where babies and children were being tucked in and lights were being turned low for the night. Mr. Bear's secret smile grew wider. When he reached home, Mrs. Bear could hear his own baby, still crying. Mr. Bear tiptoed inside. Can I help? He said. Could you hold her for a minute while I make us both a cup of blueberry tea? Asked Mrs. Bear. So Mr. Bear held their baby in his lap and sang her a lullaby. Her cries turned to little hiccupy sobs, and then to hiccups, and finally, with a small burp, she closed her eyes. When Mrs. Bear brought in the tea, she found Mr. Bear and their baby fast asleep. Oh, that was nice, wasn't it? Do you think Mr. Bear was a good babysitter in the end? I think he was brilliant, do you? And who's taking you to bed tonight? Is it Mummy or is it Daddy? And who's going to read the story? And who reads the best stories or sings the best lullabies? Yeah? Make sure you give your mummies and your daddies a big, massive hug tonight and lots of kisses and tell them you love them loads, okay? Yeah? And I love you loads. Shall we do our TikTok song now? Brilliant. Remember our clock. Are we ready? Tick, tock, tick tock, tick tock. The clock says tick tock. The clock says tick tock. The clock says tick tock. It's time to say good night. Mwah. Night night. God bless. Bye.